Okay, here we go. We've got, I think, maybe 9 or 10 credit students here, and I think I know who's who, but I'm not sure. Just going to do a little diagram. Come on in, everybody. So this is how I want to think about it. We've got our kind of our credit students, which that's credit, and they're going to consist of maybe some leaders, maybe some pastors, or maybe people that just want to continue the education. I think to get into this program, you have to have a bachelor's degree, right, to take it for credit. And then we got some people that are kind of in the same category, but they, this diagram didn't come out right. Anyway, I'll do it this way. These are our credit students, okay? And then these are the wannabe credit students, okay? But they didn't have the $500 or didn't want to put the work in, or have heard about the course I teach in the Bible college and thought this would be too hard. I don't blame you for not taking it, all right? But we're glad to have you here. And then we have just like what I would call general body members, all right? And I'm not quite sure how that goes. I'm not sure how that goes. This is just body members who just love God. You're here for the life. You want to be part of the body. And I'm glad everybody's here, and I hope you all stay as much as you want to be here. This course, it sort of grew out of a course that we taught, for undergraduates in the Bible college. A few of you have taken that course. I know, Laura, you sat in on it. VJ, did you take my course in the Bible college? No.
No, not the life.
Yeah, you took a video because Pastor Shallow was teaching at the same time. You wanted to be in his class. Good decision. Okay, thank you for that. I know Andy was there for a while in my undergraduate course. So that course was sort of like, what do we call that? Maybe church administration, which was administration/leadership course. And I originally sort of taught that course with Pastor Lange. And then that course has sort of grown into this one here. But maybe just to, what we talk about in this course is things we normally don't talk about in the church, all right? And there's reasons we don't talk about it. It's good that we're teaching it, but in terms of living in this world, it's like yes and no, especially certain things we're going to say. And I'm a little bit concerned about body members that are here. I think, pastors who have been on the field have probably dealt with some of these issues. It's not going to trouble them, some of the things we talk about. But it's possible if you're a body member and haven't been exposed to certain things, you might hear stuff that troubles you a little bit. And the way we speak about things, it's possible that some stuff is very secure and sure to you, we might, hey, Pastor, we might throw some doubt on some of that. So you might feel the earth moving under your feet a little bit, and it'll bother you. And I would just say, relax. I think I know what I'm doing here. But I would ask that if you do have questions, please ask us, ask a credit student. Don't leave here and then talk to another body member sitting next to you in church, or some friend of yours in the church, and then trouble them with what's troubling you. Like Pastor Taggart said this, because probably Pastor Taggart didn't say that, or just that was said in a context, a much larger context for a purpose. So I just want you to be aware of that, and it's maybe a little bit risky, some of this, but I think we're going to get through it okay. Given that, I think that what we talk about, maybe it's geared towards pastors and leaders, but my conviction on it is that every body member, every team member should know what we're talking about, just so that, we're going to go, we leave here, we go around the world, right? And we're going, from a church of whatever, 1,500 people to a small team. And I think it's very, valuable for a team member, even if they're not going to be like a team leader, to know those principles, because you're going to be in situations with you'll be under different types of leadership, you'll be observing situations, and it's possible some of you might, in certain situations, might not be under the best leadership, at least in certain areas, and maybe if you've been taught and instructed in some of these things, it will help you to realize if your team leader or your pastor on some other part of the world starts doing something that was different than what you were taught here, instead of bothering you, that'll actually help you, because you'll see it, but you'll be able to identify it, and it'll give you some basis to deal with it, instead of just thinking, oh, I guess this is the way it is, and then diving into something that might be damaging to you or other team members. I think it's really helpful for us as team leaders to have taught and instructed people on our team as a covering for us. So that's how I think about it. So just stay with me. I think we're going to have a very good week. I thought I might start off again, to put this course in context, by talking about, as you know, the history of Maryland Bible College and Seminary as I understand it, and then going back to Stephen's School of the Bible. So we all know this ministry was founded by Pastor Stevens, and depending on our age and our history and our geographical location, we know him a lot, we know him somewhat, or we don't know him at all. We've just heard stories about who he is. So this goes way back, I would think maybe 45 or 50 years ago to Maine. Pastor Stevens had his ministry, and he had a vision, which I think was awesome, to go in all the world with the gospel, Christian schools. And part of his vision was to have a Bible college. And the way I'd really look at Bible college, this would be my opinion, my conviction about it, is that what Bible college is it's an intensified venue for discipleship. Okay, I've got people in my church, and they're coming to church on Sundays, 3 services a week, whatever they are. I believe that your average body member can be discipled by, if we're not discipling people in our church services, what are we doing? I think church services are awesome, and you can come and you can take notes and you can study, and God will move, and you can have an awesome life and learn and grow and be very effective. Now, on top of that, we have Bible college, which is intensified training. And if you think about, living by every word of God, this book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. The way the word of God is spoken about in the Bible, it's like there's no limit, or it's not like we can have too much of it. You know what I'm saying? So the Bible college provides that venue for, like I say, people that have the time and the interest and the motivation to come and be, really, day in and day out taught. And those of us who have been through it, which I believe is all our credit students or Bible college graduates, and maybe many others of us also, Bible college was just like an awesome time in our lives. I was teasing, where'd Janine disappear to? There she is over there. I was teasing Janine about being from the Pastor Horn School of Song Leading, and that was 1976, 77. Lennox, I know I was there, and maybe not many others were there. Maybe some of you were. Ed, you were there. Maybe I don't know what year you came down. Yeah, and it was Pastor Stevens taught 5 mornings a week. And I think he taught in the evening also. But that was and then Pastor Horn is Robert Horn, who's up in New Hampshire now, still pastoring. He would song lead every morning, and he just had that spirit. It was just you drag yourself. It was a miserable life in the Berkshires, just between the dormitory and the cold, and you come in there, and Pastor Horn is just had 5 cups of coffee, and he's like, here we go, So, but that year personally changed my life, right? And so what I think we've really done in this country is we've taken intensified discipleship, and then we've put it into a form and called it a college, and that form is recognizable in terms of the Western civilization education system. Like you go through high school, then you have your graduate, your undergraduate, your bachelor's degree. So we take it and we kind of package it in a way that kind of makes sense. It makes sense to people looking in from the outside, and it makes sense to us also. What am I going to do after high school? Well, you're going to go into the intensified discipleship. Well, what is that? Well, it's Bible college. You can go to college at University of Maryland. You can come to college here with an emphasis. Okay, that makes sense to me. And for me, when I left high school, I didn't move to be part of Pastor Stephen's church. I moved to go to the Bible college because I could understand that. I couldn't grasp that other plan. And even before I went, I was at some Bible study, near my home at the time, and the guy who was doing the Bible study says, look, when you go to Bible college, you're first a body member, and second, a Bible college student. And it's that didn't even compute with me. I didn't know what a body member was. What's that mean? I don't want to be a body member. That's too, I don't like that, but I could go to Bible college. So that's what we're doing here. And so Pastor Stevens, we had the Bible college in Maine where I was not. We had the Bible college in Lenox where I was. We had a lot of students at that time. We had administration. We had deans. We had, Pastor Stevens was a phenomenon in himself, who was he just had tremendous ministry throughout New England and the Northeast. And then we would have affiliate ministries, and they were sending students. And at that time, 60s, mid-70s, there was still this whole kind of hippie thing going on where people were making radical life changes, to pack up and move somewhere else. People were doing that. They were moving to California to become part of the drug culture. They were just doing all sorts of things. And I think that God's kingdom got the benefit of that because people made radical decisions for Christ. They walked away from what they knew and started a new life. And some of us, were like that. I think I can tell this. Pam Hetrick. Everybody knows Pam Hetrick, right? Mild-mannered, sweet Pam Hetrick. She's like your mom or something to bake your cookies. She moved to Colorado, and she lived in a teepee. How was that? I can't even. But she did that, and this is the type. This is how it was, And those people are all coming to Lenox, and we had a large Bible college, and I think that if it had gone that far, that Pastor Stevens, if he could have gotten Liberty University, he would have taken it. I'm saying 10 or 20,000 students. He would have taken that if it had gone that way. And it didn't. It never got that far. And that whole thought generated for maybe a decade-ish, maybe more, maybe less, the idea of accreditation. What do we have to do to get accredited? A lot of time, effort, interest was put into that, and we never got there. And then Pastor Stevens, towards the end of his ministry, he was losing his effectiveness in terms of just being able to keep this whole thing going. And then he passed from the scene, and then Pastor Schaller took that role, and he's continued to this day for whatever, I think 12. This will be his 12th year as pastor here. In that whole transition. There was, and we'll talk about this further on in the course, there was any number of Greater Grace, pastors out there that were attached to Pastor Stevens, but didn't attach to Pastor Schaller. And again, we'll talk about that phenomenon, later on this week. And so they, stopped sending students to this place, and we saw that the numbers in the Bible college dropped because there were fewer students coming. And Pastor Schaller became the pastor here. And my experience, working, pretty closely to him, over that time, is that, he's a guy who's waiting to hear from God. If he doesn't hear from God, he's not going to say anything. So sometimes you're waiting for definition, and you're just not going to get it until it's time to give it. And so in different aspects of the ministry, this definition was coming. This is what it's been, but now this is what it's going to be, And so we were, my perception, and also I was a member probably for about some of those years, maybe from 2005 going forward. I was also part of the board of directors of the Bible College. As well as a trustee at the church. So I was in those directors' meetings. I don't think anybody here was a director at that time. I don't not recognize anybody. But in those board meetings, I could watch this whole, like between the board and the staff and things I was hearing, I was like watching the whole thing play out. Like, is this board even appropriate? What are their goals? What am I hearing from the church leadership? And the church really runs, the Bible college exists because of the church. That's how, I think that's our conviction, how we like it, And so I'm just watching this thing, and some of the tensions play out, and just waiting, like, what are we going to do with this thing? And after about 5 years, what we really kind of heard was that, listen, let's, like, a few different things go together, but as far as the Bible college goes, let's narrow this Bible college down to what we're good at and what we're really trying to accomplish, and not try to be something that we're not, okay? And that, I think, is also related to, the thought we heard from Pastor Schaller is what we're really trying to train in Greater Grace World Outreach is what we call street pastors, okay? And that doesn't mean you're ministering to street people, although that's part of it, but it means we can drop you off on a corner anywhere on the face of the earth, and you're going to be able to talk to the person who's walking by, whether he's a drug addict or whether he's an engineer or a politician or whatever he is, and we'll be able to have a real conversation with that person because that's who we are. And I thought Pastor Schaller was very good a week or two ago when he said, do you think pastoring, he said this, I think it was a Wednesday night, do you think pastoring is preaching? That's part of it, it's an important part of it, but what about the 40 phone calls that I made today? I'm saying, and I think that what we really want to do is be training pastors and leaders who are men of the people, okay, who are comfortable sitting in our cafe or any cafe, laughing, telling jokes, talking about life, loving people, being able to have a conversation with people that are like them or are very different from them, because we're truly, as Pastor Stevens would talk about, pseudo-intellectuals as opposed to true intellectuals. And I would say a true intellectual is a person who can start with a premise and then apply that premise in the details of life, which gives me a means to talk to anybody on the face of the earth, because I've made the connection between truth at the highest level to down where the rubber meets the road. I'm saying, I'm depressed. Well, I got something to say to that person, and it's not a bunch of psychobabble either, right? It's truths from the Bible that will deliver them if they can mix faith with what they hear. So street pastors, and then let's let this Bible college be what we're really good at, which is training pastors and ministers and Christian workers, And so we made a decision, hey, we're gonna get rid of the Christian education program, because if someone really wants to be a Christian educator, especially in the United States, certification means something. Come to our Bible college, but go to Towson or something, get your education degree, and then you can go out and teach, and you'll be instead of us pretending we can do something very well that we can't do, get your specialization, get those specialized credentials at a place that really offers them. Karen, you were one of our TESOL teachers also for a long time. And that program, look, CCBC has a great TESOL program. If that's what you want to do, go to come to our Bible college. Let us train you in what we're very good at. But if you want this specialization, go where you get that, get the credential. And instead of us spending lots of time and money and trying to cobble something together. And then the other thing that would happen in the programs we'd have here, we'd have people who had the bona fide, education background or the bona fide TESOL background, but they were dissatisfied with the program that they were teaching because it wasn't up to the standard that you might get in another place on a technical level. Certainly on a spiritual level, it's at the highest standard, but on a technical level. So we reformulated the Bible college. I think we're really down to just like one curriculum now, right? That's all there is. I think everybody takes the same courses. Is that true, Philippe? We basically have one curriculum now. It's specialized on what we want to do. So that's kind of where the Bible college is to this day. And then another thing that we got from the leadership some years ago is we felt like we were doing a good job training, pastors, evangelizers, preachers, ministers, counselors, that type of thing. But we were not doing a good job training elders, all right, training, people in terms of church government, all right, and that's because there wasn't really so much part of the curriculum, but, those of you who have been out there, those issues become very, very important. So that's kind of where the administration course came from, and then there are certain areas of interest that I have just related to leadership, just things that I've really learned the hard way over the years in terms of approaches to leadership. So that is, it was me and Pastor Lange, and then Pastor Lange dropped out some years ago. And then I've been teaching that course I probably taught it 3 or 4 times by myself, but we teach it every other year. So it's over the course of, 6 to 10 years or something, I've been teaching it. And apparently that course has gained some traction. People have enjoyed that course. But the people who enjoy that course the most, like the ones who are really amazed by it, that's too strong a word, but really enjoy the course. All right, it's not that great. It's when there's guys who've been out pastoring, and then they come here and take the course, all right? And then they say, "Oh my God, I wish." And Javi, you were one of those people. "Oh, I wish I had this before." And same thing. Pastor Ben Nar. He went back. He took the course, loved it. Told Pastor Shabelli how awesome it was, and now I'm in because Pastor Shabelli loves the course because Pastor Ben loves it. So that's what's happening there. All right. Now, at the same time, teaching that course at the undergraduate level, I felt like it was a little bit of a stretch because you'd have, young people right out of high school. You have 18-year-olds in the course. Maybe their second year of Bible college. And they're just being exposed to stuff, which is a little bit like, but we go with it. And then also, the intensity level I run that course at, you really got to study to pass it. And a lot of D's go out in that course. And Gina, you took the course and got an A. Yes, she did. All right, there you go. But because your mind works that way, what I'm saying? So women's minds tend to work better in that course than men's minds do, even though men are the leaders. So I was asked to do this. I was determined. I wanted to take the subjects from the undergraduate course that I wasn't able to treat in the depth that I wanted to at that level and expand them. And I was also kind of determined I didn't want to simply reteach material that's already available. So this course has some certainly expanded material, some material that's original to this course that I've never taught before. I am happy with the course. I don't know where you learn this stuff, although, like I know, Pastor Bob, you've got a background in business. Maybe some of you other people have a background in business. There's certain things I want to teach that are true, whether you're in a church or in a business. But, these are just like management, leadership type things that are simply true because all truth is from God. So some of the, I hope it didn't offend any of you. That's why I have you reading this book, not written by a Christian. You know what I'm saying? In fact, there's a bad word on the front cover here. Some of you may have noticed that. My wife said, "You really want to put that out there?" Yeah, I'm going with it. And it's because there's stuff here that will apply when you're in leadership, no matter what that venue is. So let's have credit students raise your hands, please, if you're a credit student. Okay, so you're a credit student also. Maybe. Maybe credit student. Now, of the credit students, and there's no need to lie, there's no wrong answer here, but how many of you completed 100% of the pre-course work? Anybody? Okay. Okay, so I take that as a no. Okay, all right. So some of you did, the majority of you didn't. I made that, even though a lot of you haven't taken it, like I don't know if any of you took it. You were in my class here. No, never. Okay, so all you graduate students didn't take, but you got to learn that material. And probably the hardest thing you're going to do as part of your post-course work is to pass the test that I'm going to give on that material. You got to know the stuff. And maybe Angina can tell you how to cheat, how do you make your life a little easier to make it, I'm sorry, not how to make your life easier when you take that course. But the reason I'm doing that is because I value it. And I don't want to be teaching this course without some of the foundation being missing also, okay? So it's very important. I value it. I think the church values it. I think our churches will benefit if you put the time in and get that stuff. Your testimony in the staff meeting a couple weeks ago, where you'd taken like a counseling course or something.
Yeah, this counseling course. I missed it because I was overseas.
Right.
So I took it in between.
For your personal enrichment, you took it, or
I
had to take it? Yeah. Yeah, but just the testimony was like, yeah, thank you for that, is how awesome these courses are. Like, our Bible college is gold, and it's just, like let's learn it all over again, line upon line. Let's learn this stuff because it's really important. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today. What this course is why this course exists as part of the master's program. So Philippe knows that we've kind of had a few different iterations of the title of this course, and I think yesterday, or was it today, I finally arrived at a final formulation of what the title of this course is. So I'll get that up on the church. On the course website. I'll go in and change that. But this is what it is. It's a seminar on church polity and leadership. Okay, so if you're a credit student, can you just, I don't have one for everybody, but just hand this off to our credit students here. Let me just make sure Kaya. Okay, you got to join the course now because they gave you a piece of paper there. Anybody else? Okay, there you go. Maybe credit student. Okay. All right, there you go. Okay, and because those words, no one knows what those words mean, I included the definition here, but, whoops, I got a blank. Let me just borrow yours, VJ, if I could, all right? So, so the first thing is it's seminar, okay? And the reason we're using that word is seminar is an advanced or graduate course often featuring informality and discussion, okay? So a seminar is an advanced or graduate course often featuring informality and discussion, okay? So just listen to what I'm about to say. I know that I can get lecturing and I can get on a roll and it sounds like I can get excited and passionate. I understand that. For our credit students, okay, one of the ground rules of this week is that you got to talk, okay? So you can comment, you can stop me. I am concerned, I think I know, Edwige, your English might not be your first language. Sometimes I'll use vocabulary that doesn't make sense to you. So just, but just if you have questions, hey, Pastor Tate, you say that again, or I want to develop that thought, or I didn't get what you mean, or I have a comment on that, or when I was a pastor 5 years ago, this happened. That I really want to hear that type of stuff, because honestly, I just don't want to listen to myself talk for 25 hours this week. You won't like it. You'll get more out of it if you talk. But in addition to my credit students talking, okay, there's a few other special people in here. One of them is Pastor Tony Cooper, okay, because you're pastoring a church. You might have stuff, questions, answers, comments. We want to hear them. Pastor Ken, okay, you're pastoring a church, all right? You may have something you want to say, or what was that about, or this is happening in my church. Javid, I know you've pastored, all right? You're in that thing, and then Pastor Ed, I know you've been in that category of actually, leading teams, pastoring. If I'm missing somebody, don't be offended. Just tell me who you are. But but especially our credit students who are pastoring, which is Pastor Bob, Pastor Stan, Pastor Sam. I think those are the ones. But just guys, if you don't talk, you're going to get bored. I'm going to get bored, and we're going to miss. And if you talk, it'll help me know what you're interested in. It will add. Maybe you raise a question we haven't thought about that should be included. It'll help us develop material as a body and me as a person also. Okay, so that's a ground rule. And for those of you who care about your grades, which I do not care about grades, but those of you who care about your grades, if you talk, you will get credit for that in terms of when I go to grade you. If you just sat there quiet all week, you won't get as good a grade. How do you like that? All right? So there you go. No! Yes, yes.
I'm teasing.
Okay, all right, there we go. So, but having said that, any questions, comments about what I said so far, as far as we've taken it?
Well, I do have one. The pre-course stuff,
Yeah.
like, sorry, but where were we supposed to find that?
So there is a website that is a public website. Anybody can get to it. But if you email me, I'll email you back the link, and you can go there, and all that stuff is there. Okay? And I also got to greet, I know we've got people, I know Pastor Taro, I think, is taking this course by whatever video, whatever it is. Hello to all our people that are not here but are taking it for credit. Thank you for that. And then the post-course work, that's not fully developed yet, so you gotta wait on that. So not everybody's done the pre-course work. How many people, just so I know, have read this book? Anybody? Okay, the same 3, 4. Pat, you read it, Pastor Sam, also. So 4 of you have read it. I want you to read that as part of it. But we're not going to get to that material today or tomorrow. That'll come later on in the course. So what do I want out of our students? What do I want the result to be? Like I said, I could care less about grades. I don't care about you. I guess, especially for the test I'm going to give you on the previous course material. That'll be a little bit of kind of memorize and spit it back to me. But that's not really like the best form of learning. So what I really want to have happen to you this week, is that like your mind will be open to ways of thinking about things that you haven't thought before, and you'll learn some principles and then be able to apply them in situations that you encounter in real life, whether it's in the church or whether it's in your work life, just any organizational / leadership situation that you'll be able to think about, just to give you some ways to think about these subjects we're going to talk about. And maybe the second thing is like related to that, but to say in a different way, is this course is really about people and how they act in situations. Okay, and just to give a silly example, if I go over and slap VJ in the face, like walk over and hit him in the face, all right, there's going to be a response. Okay, he's either has to hold his ground and stand up. He's going to hit me back, or he's going to be like he's got to hold on to his dignity, right? Because he's just been humiliated, or he has to, curl into a ball and think that that happened to me because I deserved it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying everyone's going to react the same way, but people react in very predictable ways. All right. And I didn't do it, but I was going to do my show and tell would have been like, bring an egg in here, right? Okay. If I drop this egg, not a hard-boiled, an uncooked raw egg, and it hits the ground, what's that egg going to do? It's going to break. All right, it's going to break. Okay, and people are like this. Okay, if you treat them a certain way, they will respond in that way. If you drop an egg, it's going to break, right? If you treat a person a certain way, he or she is going to respond in very predictable ways, all right? And and again, we'll talk about this again, but you'll hear this phrase again, but it's not sin, it's about people being human, all right? And humans act human, okay? Whether they're new to the church, or whether they're a Bible college student, or whether they're a husband, wife, child, whether they're a team leader, whether they're pastoring a church, whether it's Pastor Stevens, whether it's the board of elders, whether it's a guy who just went out on the mission field last week. People are people, and they will act in human ways. And if we understand that and make allowance and accommodation for it, and set up and are aware of these things, as we build our organizations and build leadership structures and all that type of stuff, it will help us, okay? And that's kind of what this course is about, okay? So the post-course work, I haven't fully defined it, Pastor Stan, and we'll do this some more, but how it's going to go, it's going to be, you're going to take a test on the prerequisite material, not the pre-course, but the Lead 440, whatever that course was that you guys are all, if you haven't taken it, you're going to take it. There is, you're also going to go to the Lead 440 website, which what will save your life is the outline there, because that puts in outline form the material I want you to know. And if you basically memorize that outline, you'll do fine on the test. If you don't, you'll be in trouble. Okay, so you got to demonstrate that material. And then most likely for what we do here over this next week is I'm going to, most likely it'll be something like this. Like you're going to pick 3 or 4 subjects we talked about, and you're going to write probably like 1,000-word essay on that subject. And what I'll be looking for is that you understood what we taught, you really grasped the concept that we're trying to get across in the class. And then number 2, you were able to apply it, right? You're able to take a real life situation that you're in or have been in and talk about that situation and how the principle that you've learned in the class applies to that situation. That to me is the best way I have of kind of hitting the target in terms of what I want you to learn. Okay? So there we go. Yes, you have to think. Number 2, I don't know. There is no number 2, I guess. Yes?
When's that test going to be?
Well, I think probably how it's going to go is you'll take it sort of self-monitored, self-proctored, something like that. I'm not into watching you take a test. But maybe with a deadline, the latest, if you come to convention and haven't taken it, you're going to have to take it that week, or else you won't be getting credit for for this course, and you might not get your master's diploma. How do you like that? Yes?
Would it be 3 or 4 essays, you said?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, don't hold me to it. I'm just telling you how it's going to go, but how I want you thinking this week. All right? It's not like, oh my God, I just missed that point. It's like, are we getting the big picture? Am I thinking and meditating? That's what I really want you to get. Okay, so it's advanced or graduate course, often featuring informality and discussion. We talked about the informality and discussion. On church polity. Polity is the form of government of it. It's used in other situations, but the form of government of a religious denomination or church. It's like how is this church led? And then seminar on church polity and leadership. Okay, how do you lead in the church? How do you exercise your leadership? So that's what we'll be talking about this week. Okay. Let me just take a look at this now, if I've covered all this stuff here. Okay, so that's it. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to spend some time and maybe some hours talking about board leadership, okay? Because in the United States, churches tend to be governed not by one man, but by a board of men. And like, what is really behind that, And I think I had some topics listed on the website about different things, and now we're going to start talking about that. But before we start talking about that, we want to talk. See, the board, like for your day in and day out church operation, and day in and day out life of a body member, the board that is leading the church, at least in Greater Grace churches, is like invisible or transparent. Okay, the body member doesn't wake up even with a consciousness that there's a board. I don't know, Pastor Schaller, how what you wake up thinking about, but my guess is most of our pastors aren't thinking a lot I mean, certainly at key times they're thinking about the leadership of the church, but day in and day out, it's not that the board isn't relevant, it's just not highly visible in terms of the ongoing activity of the church, in Greater Grace churches. In other churches, it might be, but not in our churches. And that's really because, like, our churches have, I don't know what the right word is. I've heard it termed that we're a leadership church. That's the term I've heard used. And to put it in different words, it just means we have a strong and visible pastor who is really leading the church. Okay, and Pastor Stevens had a formulation that the chief administrator, chief policymaker, and chief communicator, I forget, he had some threefold definition like that of what the role of the pastor is. And and I think that, I know that I'm in a church partly because it's what I've learned and partly because it's what I've seen work, but this is the church, the type of church that I want to be in, okay? I don't want to be in a church with, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but I guess it's just how I think. I don't want to be in a church with like a wimpy pastor, okay? Where the guy, his job is to spend his Saturday evening writing a sermon, comes in and gives a sermon, then he shake hands at the back of the door. Oh, wasn't this a nice time we had together? No one's offended, and we go home and heard a nice message, all right? That's not our view of what the church is. But our view of the church and the pastor is different than that, and we believe it's very scriptural. And what are the characteristics? Like, okay, so the pastor that we want to be under, that I want to be under, like what characterizes that person in no particular order, and you could certainly like add to this, some thoughts that would be just as good as mine. But like what is this person like? Well, number one, he's a very godly person. All right, he's humble before God, and he exemplifies Christian character in the way he lives and what he does. Okay, that's the type of pastors that we want to have in our churches. Okay, number two, he is caring for the flock. Right, he is caring about the body. Okay, he wakes up in the morning Pastor. I know I'm quoting Pastor Stevens, but I'm going to keep doing it here. Every name that's in your head needs to be in your heart, okay? So I've got a list of people in the church in front of me. Do I care about these people? Is it important to me? Is this like, am I exercising myself in this direction, okay? The next thing is, does this guy really know the Bible, okay? Not has he studied the Bible at a seminary and can, give you the doctrine of whatever it might be, doctrine of predestination, point by point, okay, that's all like a foundation. But does this guy know the Bible in the sense that what's the purpose of the Bible, right? To teach us doctrine. The purpose of the Bible is to present to us the person of Jesus Christ and give us the opportunity to know him. All right, that's what this is about. So does the man who's leading the church, does he have this relationship with the Bible where he is like living by every word of God, where he's sorry, I put that pad up here, where he's living, breathing, eating, sleeping this stuff. And let me just, I had some other notes here. Yeah, so does this person have wisdom in situations, right? If I go to him for advice, what am I going to get? What am I going to hear from this person if I go to him for advice? Because what I'm looking for, I don't want to hear what anybody else can tell me. I want to hear somebody who's gifted by God, who not only has wisdom because of experience, but wisdom because he knows God, and maybe in some situations, wisdom from my life. Not that I count on that. I'm accountable for my decisions. I'm not looking for these word of knowledge things. They get a little bit crazy. But if I go for counsel, what am I really going to get? Something that I can take or leave, or something that I like. Why would I want to listen to that person's counsel? You know, what's the value of it? You know, I'm looking for a person who has like power in prayer, right? The Bible says we have power in prayer. I don't have power in prayer. Does anybody have power in prayer? Well, the pastor better. Otherwise, I'm going to go somewhere else to find someone who does, who can show me how to be that way, right? And this, the type of stuff I'm talking about, this is why we have moved around the world to be here. Okay, now there may be some people in this room from Baltimore, but not many. All right, this is what do you think we're doing here? This is like the pearl of great price, right? It's the treasure hidden in a field. Baltimore's the field. We're here for the treasure. You know what I'm saying? We move here for this, and this is what we're doing. Like, is God moving in the midst of His people? Is there a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night? Is there or isn't there? You know what I'm saying? Are we in a spiritual battle, or are we in a moral battle? Where as long as I can keep a lid on it, everything's going to be okay. What are we doing here? Is God real? There she is, Pam. We mentioned your name earlier. I went public that you used to live in a teepee. Now we all know, and it's going around the world too. Anyway, she lives in a house now. Lives in a nice house in Kearney. I want you to know that. Okay? Does he have a faith that I can follow? Like, does he have the backbone and the spine to lead the church at times in ways that is uncomfortable for the church because it's right before God? All right? Is he going to keep us on track in terms of evangelism, discipleship, missions, and body life? Is this the type of thing it's going to be? Is this what it's going to be like? Because is he a person that I want to become, right? Is he a person that I want to be around, right? Or is he a person I really don't want to be around that person? I'll listen to his message, but he's really not that likable a guy because he's like, what's the word? Cantankerous, obstreperous. I'm trying to think of easier words, but we'll just go with those, all right? Because he's an unhappy guy, Is the Christianity attractive that we're participating in? And the way someone said to me years ago, it's like, and I know this is like familiarity. It's not right, but maybe it is right. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. But we expect our pastors to go 7 days a week. We do. You know what I'm saying? Because we think that's what it's like. And we want to be that. We want to be 7 day a week Christians. Within reason, and not putting a standard on the pastor. But oh my gosh, if he doesn't value it, why would I value it? You know what I'm saying? This is Jack Hiles. I've given this illustration before, but he had the big bus ministry in Chicago. 20,000 people, wherever outside of Chicago. I forget the name of the place. And his bus captains, and they worked it. They'd be out Saturday and Sunday like we used to do. And Jack Hiles, he made it a point of honor that he was going to be at his desk in the church at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, right? Sunday's a busy day for him, but he was going to be at his desk in the church working 6 a.m. Sunday morning because his bus captains that just spent Saturday and Sunday, visiting and bringing kids in on buses, his bus captains were back at 6 in the morning working in a steel mill to support their families. So that's like how it goes, right? We want our pastors to be a burning bush, right? And so we have this unique role of the pastor in our churches. It's, in a sense, it's why we're here. In a sense, it's what we expect. I don't know if that's good or bad. In a sense, it's what we aspire to, right? That was my thing when I heard Pastor Stevens preach. Oh my gosh, I've been hearing about this Christianity for 5 or 6 years now, 8 years, whatever it is. Now there's a church where if God's real, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is what it's supposed to be like. It's not I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm saying, right? This is like, of course we should be going into all the world. Of course God should be taking my life and giving me a path forward and making me into something I'm not. or at least I'm not right now, or and drawing me into a place, something I don't even see in myself. God can do this in my life. This is like great. This is God. Outside of that, I'm going to be a good person, go to church, listen on Sunday, and try not to, do too many bad things during the week, and then come back Sunday and do it all over again. And there's no life in that. So that is and we're going to go to some Bible verses right now. You probably know these verses, but I'm gonna get the Bible out, and we're just going to turn there real quick, okay? And maybe I'll try and slow it down for my sake a little bit here, because I'm getting worked up. Okay. Acts 20:20. How many people know Acts 20:20? Not many, a few, one to... All right, that's the pastor I want. He knows the verse. All right, there we go. But we can turn there or not, whatever you want to do. We're going to read it in just a second here. Okay, Acts 20:20, here we go. Maybe we'll go back to verse 18, all right? They came to him, these are the Ephesian elders, and he says to them, from the first day that I came into, I said that wrong. From the first day that I came into Asia, after what manner I have been with you at all seasons. You know how I behaved towards you. Okay? Verse 19, I've been serving the Lord. This is Paul speaking, with all humility of mind, with tears, trials, which befell me by the lying in wait of the Jews, and how I kept back nothing that was profitable unto you, but have shown you and have taught you publicly and from house to house. Okay, so there's like a testimonial life that is 7 days a week, that is exemplary, that is self-sacrificing, that is loaded. I haven't held back. I've kept back nothing that was profitable unto you. And I looked at on the other side, Paul had a lot to say. He had a lot to say of profit, and he was sharing it in whatever venue he could, as often as he could, to as many people as would listen. And we've got 4 church services a week, We've got Bible college. We've got the daily lunch wraps. We've got radio in the afternoon. We've got the wrap on Saturday. On and on it goes, because we have that much to offer. And as a disciple, I need as much as I can get. Yes, this is the church I want. This is the pastor I want. This is the type of leadership I want. Okay, and I know we're belaboring this, but we're going to keep doing it, because I'm just making a point before we shift gears a little bit here. So that is Acts 20 verse 19 through 20. Okay, and then we can go to 2 Timothy 4:1. And that says this. Excuse me, maybe it's verse 2 is the one I'm... There we go. It's verse 2, but we can start in verse 1. I charge you, therefore, speaking to Timothy, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the living and the dead at the appearing of his kingdom. Verse 2, preach the word. Be diligent in season and out of season, okay? Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine, okay? This is the pastor I want. This is the type of leadership we want to have in our churches, and I believe we have it, okay? In season and out of season, okay? When it's time to preach, when it's not time to preach, when people are listening, when they just came in from work and they're tired and they're falling asleep, just keep at it, all right? This is who we are. That's how he's instructing Timothy, and I can promise you, if Paul did not live that life, he couldn't teach it, okay? And Timothy wouldn't listen to it if he didn't. This is how it is. And then I think we mentioned this sort of, but we'll turn over to Hebrews 13, verse 7. And that says this: remember them who have the rule over you. Oh, they have the rule over me. Oh, really? Someone has a rule over me? I didn't know that was, I thought in America I was my own person, right? I have to submit to somebody? That offends me, all right? Remember them who have the rule over you, who have spoken unto you the word of God, whose faith follow, considering the end of their manner of life. Okay? And here's how it goes. What is the end of the manner of life? The end of the manner of life is that there is a source of life and a flow of life. That's why I'm here, because I've met someone who has life towards me. All right? This is what I want. I want to be receiving it, and God, if you would allow me to be a flow of life towards myself first, because I'm not right now, and then towards other people that are around me, so I'm a blessing, this would be great. How could this happen to me? What's going to happen to me by living the same type of life that my pastor lives, with the attention, with the diligence, with the prayer, with the study, with the attention, with the humility, with the laying down my life, with putting up with situations that I don't want to put up with, turning the other cheek. This is how I become that, all right? And this is what we want to be. We want to be discipled in our churches, and we need to have a leadership position in place that is free to disciple people. Okay, which is just to say we are. I don't know what the word is. Maybe you guys who are in the literature out there know the word. But a leadership church, we want to have a strong pastor who is fulfilling pastors who is fulfilling these roles in our lives, because we want to receive this ministry and become disciples and become like Jesus Christ. This is what we want. Okay. So now. Everybody with me so far? All right. Does anybody have, just so I can take a deep breath here, anybody want to make a comment on anything or on any other subject while I just take a deep breath here? Absolutely. Go right ahead. Oh, yeah, hold on. We got a mic for you. Thanks.
I was wondering if a pastor doesn't follow all this, and like in word to word, just like you mentioned, but still a pastor, you know, and there's people who are actually seeing the word of God in him, and you know, he's apparently appointed, obviously, and people been there for years, and they kind of, but these kind of qualities, as they grow in faith, strike them, and then they say, okay, so we would like to see the same qualities in our pastor, or more of it.
Right.
Like, what would be your advice on how to approach that?
So maybe someone else could have a better answer. But before I answer your question, Javid, just to make sure you understand why I'm talking about this, is the reason I bring it up is so just to sort of identify and define how we think about the pastoral leadership in our churches, because we want to have a pastor who is in a strong enough, I don't mean in terms of strength of personality, but in strength of position and role to have this type of ministry, okay? And the reason I spent some time talking about it is because not immediately, but in probably 10 or 20 minutes, I'm going to start talking about board leadership, right? And how do you have a strong pastor, but also have a functional board? Because you run into a tension there. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason I'm belaboring this point, just so that we all see clearly some of the difficulty. Okay, now you're going to put board leadership on top of that and leadership by committee. How does that work? You know what I'm saying? And I believe that there is an inherent tension there that we need to recognize and identify. That's why I'm talking about it, not to put you in a position to critique your pastor, right? Although But still, we do critique our pastors. I mean, we all do. I mean, I don't mean with a bad spirit, although it could be a bad spirit at times. But so here we are. I'm not sure I have a good answer for your question. Maybe I'll get to it. So what do we do in that situation? What would my advice be? Was that your
And the question was hypothetical.
Yeah, oh, I get it. Yeah. Hypothetical question. So here is what I have observed in my life and in the lives of many other people. I have been in what I call like subpar churches, okay? I think I'm in an excellent church right now, Pastor Schaller. Okay. There's a payroll week. I got to get that out there. So I thought Pastor Stephen's leadership was excellent. Okay. And then I've been in other churches that in some greater grace, some not greater grace, that may or may not have had that level of leadership. I have found, and then I've known people from other churches also. You know, we all have Christian acquaintances. What I have seen is that the work of the Holy Spirit in a person's life is awesome enough so that people grow and continue to go on and make progress with God, even if they're in a church that is not as good as it could be, even if the pastor isn't perfect, because it is. Like the pastor is one person, you know, in some senses, absolutely the most important person. But also you've got the Holy Spirit, you've got the body. I don't teach it in this course, but in other contexts, I've taught it this way, maybe like once, is that in a sense we disciple ourselves. And what I mean by that is we avail ourselves of material and hold ourselves accountable to material that challenges me. You know what I'm saying? So I believe there's a provision for every believer in every church to continue and make progress with God and grow. You know, I've got, you know, my wife's, you know, family is Roman Catholic. I know amazing Catholic believers. You know what I'm saying? My mom, see, the church we went to when I was a child was an Episcopal church, you know, Anglican church, which in Africa it's a halfway decent church. In this country, it's a total train wreck. You know, that certain parishes know, but generally, you know, they got the gay bishops going. They got all sorts of stuff going in this country. And, you know, and that was the church my family went to. We were not hearing the gospel from the pulpit. My mom got saved listening to radio, not Pastor Stevens, but Clinton White, those of you that remember him. But there was a lady in that church, called to the Episcopal Church, absolutely born-again Christian, and she discipled my mom. You know, I think I still have it, a copy of My Utmost for His Highest, you know, Oswald Chambers with this lady, Mildred Kensley, you know, with a little inscription, you know, to someone, to my mom. So I think that exists. And now, like, so I'm in that situation, and I have two options, three options. And it's not like only one option works. I think they can all work. One option, I'm going to be, even though my pastor isn't everything that I might like him to be, I'm going to be everything as a body member that I would want someone to be if I were the pastor. I'm not going to let that be an excuse for me to be a second-class body member. Instead, I'm going to be all those things that I want him to be. I'm going to have the prayer life. I'm going to have the study life. I'm going to have the ministry life. I'm going to have the outreach life. I'm going to have the body life. I'm going to do all these things. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, which might be the hardest, most difficult thing to do, but maybe the most honorable thing to do, but only, I would say, only led by God. But you have an option to sit down with the pastor and have a conversation with him. You know what I'm saying? And with the right spirit and with prayer and with humility, you know, if this guy's humble, he's going to receive you as a brother, and maybe it will help him. Maybe it will help him. You know, that's the second thing we can do. The third thing is that if you're part of an affiliation like our churches are, there can be communication with home base. We're going to talk about that later on this week. I don't want to get into that right now, but that's an option also. And then the fourth option is you're a free will agent. Has God called me to this church? You know what I'm saying? Has God called me to this church? You know, is God leading me somewhere else? Is there another place I could be? You know, and I've uprooted myself in this country really twice. You know, once to move to Lenox and then, you know, a second time to move down here. You know, we've all done these things. We've made those decisions led by God. And what I don't have the option to do is to stay in that church where I'm not totally happy with the leadership and be a jerk. I cannot do that. I cannot tear down the leadership. I cannot talk to people. I cannot create a clique of supposedly spiritual people that know more than the pastor does and have conversations about that. I cannot do that. And that's, and I know, you know, Pastor Stevens was very strong on this. I think we're strong on gossip also. You know, come to us. All right, like I said at the start, if I say something in the next 5 days that bothers you, you know, before you go and talk to somebody else, please come and talk to us and just give me a chance to, maybe I said something, if I'm speaking for 25 hours, I'm going to misspeak myself during the course of time. I get tired and get stuff out too fast. Or another, you know, one of my many shortcomings is sometimes to make a point, I will overstate to make a point, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, that was offensive. Well, it probably wasn't the best way to say it, but I was just trying to get from point A to point B as fast as I could. And I like being a little bit edgy also, but sometimes it's too much of an edge. So that's how I would address that question. Okay, that's how I would address that question. We could say some more about that, but maybe that's it for now. So in Hebrews, anything else there? Okay, and again, you guys can stop me at any time. I think how this is going to go is this go till 9 o'clock tonight? Is that the schedule? So I think we're going to go to, from 5 to 6:30. Is that right? Yeah, an hour and a half. That's 4 hours. I don't know how this is going. Yeah, yes, 4 hours, thank you. Anyway, you know, there's going to be some breaks. 2 breaks? Okay, so let's think about that. So 4 hours, 3 hours, and hey, you know what? Maybe we'll, let's get this verse out and then we'll take a break. How do you like that? All right? And if I just read this, but I'm just going it again here. Oh yeah, Hebrews 13:7. Remember them who have the rule over you, who have spoken unto you the word of God, whose faith follow. I talked about this, considering the end of their manner of life. Okay, so we are in a church. We don't have a pastor because someone has to do the preaching, but I'm in a church because there's a person whose faith I can follow. All right, that's a very, very weighty matter to put someone in that position where I'm following his faith. Right, I'm counting, and that's how I say it. I'm counting on Pastor Schaller and this church to get me to the judgment seat of Christ as successfully as I can possibly get there. You know, and that's why I'm in this church. Number one, because God led me here. Number two, because I want to be here. You know, I don't know if God led me. Yeah, God definitely led me here, but I want to be here also because I know what could become of me in other churches. I could be very successful possibly, but not be walking with God, you know. So we're gonna break right there, and so maybe we'll take we're gonna come back at 6:30.